o marang moula mayap aungil madangali arngula bela
Madam malungil el sils el mora rogul adu kuk nos vedet magar al tutau ko dar sa susurgid el mora uod el mal maklo mal gegrei el other belau no se vedet magem merko kuk marcel time bodome cycle langira bluadra egal merko tal sunday maklo tugoi e kuk to bodal de suet el girel al sukum ga aria somlo to bod marangul ngai gidre e baral rosel ngartiang kali kana dim nakal mesera friday mle masangara agmel dilel oktamalel di alam lamos bel me ku mesringing mal muer mel mas maru paglor regas lengkanga al ide di rasenet rahiring ringi ramora ethics commission e secure elil modir un med clear di gals bel mortal ethics commission ere kada mangil molo aiser gidrauriul indi ngania palto gubets lokyagargit el trigel mclol ada sebil ada begia timera ablur belawra ngar eungeladois sera dogotul motraura 1899 mora adois el ngra argidel mora 1914 etobud ikidam donte ada adois ra lemring latigingil ad emlar belawe erirula malpotokra selegel tu me warrak dimokringia amlo ngi saringo angaur ediregel eluris akra ada belaura tokora uror du arndil adem ring lorol adem adar bela maklol adar adar mad madrat o aisosi tara gotlungil time adar bela let no mudu sub loror e mudu arndir mung segi den diku temrai la da sia bala me ngal dil ngartiang mo mesringi lungir dila nganga aprobesong tirkel kodom gotong tilu aseta toktangra archaeology enganga agasuseng blaringia alda du ra Palau museum lulu aisa ke lurerel mitrigel adal dagal hagasira abulado isel miliwe krbelaw mura Imelique mura ang klaw mura Natpang el alma akmed le lol rak kadam larmeng si isel aikel oblal lang ra Imelique maikel ngara ke belaw lulsu et mral hagasem tengila utum me omes el atam latam dia kara urerir edir kamra urerir mengpalo ngasireng ngaga amlar sel ladura susma ngaringa rugul bela mangarablat ingam lo mudadu kiko mano smriar makulengi terngilo ase sebel metuo bra elang elo waisir gidling mamrara kluguk di kaya mar gbiar mas maru bagaleng ladi mom logo toram digel leng mal ko digi ataim leng kamamra kluguk mtigil masang maktingwa tialu laon sang imo lingi ternggi meng mosyo garngi emergo e mokmuigel dadal wase kangarang mrule engaratum larmul merelang engarap lal betik ko aisir gitel gira la bluadar pelau mak timertiang imo lingi ternggi welcome again to Palau. Yeah, you've been here many times, so I think we're going to come back again. So I just explained a little bit of our relationship with Germany and then your work here. So I give you the floor to introduce yourself, who you are, why you're here, what you've done, and whether you're going to come back and continue the work, and what is the work to us.
Thank you very much. And my name is Annette Kuehlem, and I'm a research archaeologist. I'm part of a team who looks into ecosystem changes on islands in the Pacific, and we're doing that on several islands. And here in Palau, it's one of the most impressive and most interesting islands to work on, mainly because of those monumental earthworks you have up, mainly up on Babel Daub. And yeah, we're interested in how humans have changed and altered their environment, what measures they took to optimize how land is being used, etc. And that's why we, as a team, which is the Institute for Ecosystem Research of the KIEL University in Germany, the German Archaeological Institute, and the Palau Resource Institute. We have a cooperation to study the earthworks up on Babeldaub, and we started in 2017. Basically, the first steps were to talk to people, to present our program, to present what we wanted to do and why, also to ask the local governors, for example, whether they are interested in us doing this work. And so there was a lot of build up until we, for the first time, put a shovel in the ground, no?
But you've done work, similar work in other islands. Which islands have you done?
Yes, so my longest standing project is on Rapa Nui, on Easter Island, all the way in the very east of Oceania. So basically the entire expanse from the most western to the most eastern island. Yes. But there's so many islands, and Easter Island is the place where I've worked for the longest time. I started there in 2010. Wow. And with a similar focus, of course, but very different expressions. But also on Rapa Nui, we're looking into human landscape transformation, how in the past resources were managed, and how basically people used the land, used the landscape, and those interactions of nature and human beings. Then I've worked on the Solomon Islands. I've worked in French Polynesia on the Marquesas Islands. And so I'm very lucky that I have a beautiful area in the world that I'm working in.
So what is archaeology? Can you tell the audience what archaeology is?
Yes, archaeology is the study of ancient cultures, of ancient civilizations, and it's basically looking into history without having any written records. So all this information about past societies, past cultures, we are trying to get insight by finding clues through excavations. And there's many different levels. And also here for the project that we did in Babeldaub, you usually start on a very big scale and then narrow it down until you find the smallest details or even microscopic evidence, and so that you get a very broad picture of for example, what people used to eat, how they used to live, what kind of housing they had. In the case of the earthworks, the terraces, what were they used for? Lots of different little pieces to the puzzle, and archaeology is only one aspect of our project. So that I think was a very positive aspect, that it was a very interdisciplinary team that we worked with. So we had geologists, we had botanists, we had ecologists. Very important. The cooperation with the Palau Resource Institute, with Julita Telei, who is our cultural consultant, who provides the oral histories, the local stories, and bring, of course, that aspect. And that's kind of the ideal scenario when you have the story, the traditional knowledge, and then add scientific evidence and scientific facts to that.
It sounds very detailed. So I'm wondering, what about equipment? Is there like a special camera that you can kind of look into the ground first before you start digging, or you just have to do it very slowly not to accidentally break a bone or something?
Well, so there's several methods of looking into the ground in that sense, which is basically that a signal is sent through a card that's being pushed and then reflected, but that is very it's not very detailed, no, and so that is not something that is usually more to locate a site at all, but here in the case of the terraces, it's very obvious they are there, and especially the topmost areas, the crowns. That's something where it's an archaeological site, so that you actually have to put a shovel in the ground and start excavating, and the process is very detailed, like you said. So you go excavate in layers, always documenting everything along the way, and there are several layers where you work with a pickaxe, and then it comes down to in the end you work with dentist tools.
Yeah.
No?
So tell us a little bit of when and where did you what did you do, and when and where, which state in Palau, you know.
Yeah, when you started.
When you start, what did you start the shovel? You remove the grass and then scrape the. What did you do?
Was that in 2017, right?
2017 is the first time that I came to Palau, to basically set up the project and talk to people and understand also the permitting process and basically do the groundwork, no? And then the first actual field campaign was 2019, and we started. The whole project had like 3 major phases. So we started this project doing drone survey up in Babeldaub, where with the drone we took overlapping images, aerial images of the different sites, and we had selected 14 sites in very different states, in different locations, so some close to the coast, some more inland, some at the mangroves, because we wanted to get a broad picture, no? And we did these drone documentations, and there's been a lot of improvement in the last, I want to say, 10-15 years when it comes to archaeological methods, no? Because now with remote sensing, with drones, we can document so much faster than what used to be terrestrial surveying, no? And so there's very quick and efficient ways now to document these giant sites, and it's very detailed as well. And so our surveyor on the team, Christian Hartelreiter, he's the one to make these elevation models at the end. So what you end up with is a 3-dimensional model of each earthwork, and every little point on that model has coordinates. So it's also a very good way, a very detailed way of documenting. So in years to come, you can take these 3D models and look, okay, have there been any changes? Has there been any erosion, any damage? So that was the first phase, and then we evaluated that data and then did geo-archaeological investigations, where we had 40 smaller trenches, excavations on 10.
Where was this?
On 10 of the earthworks in Imelique, in Natpang, in NGIRMANG, in NGIRMANG, and in Archaeology. Wow. That's where we actually did excavation trenches, and then in Imelique we also documented one of the sites, but did not excavate, and so we have 40 trenches, and we wanted a very a broad sample base, so that it's not just if you do just a few trenches that can be a coincidence what you find, but with 40 trenches we get a pretty good idea of construction techniques. And one important aspect that we looked into was how erosion, how weather had affected the terraces over the years. And that was one of the very interesting, very important results, that those earthworks that you can see in the landscape today, we found minimal to no evidence of erosion on them.
Wow.
With all those 40 trenches, there were a couple, I really want to say 2 or 3, where you had very, very few centimeters of sediment that had been washed down the hill. So those are really extremely well built, well built intact sites. And another.
So out of those sites that you identify, and then you made some excavation, you start in Imelique, and last night exhibits show a lot of what you did. And as you know, last night was the exhibit opening for what you work at the museum. So it looks last night from the photos that you show in your talk, Imelique played prominent. You start with that. That seemed to be very elaborate work done so far. So what did you do there? You identify that hill, I think on the way to Leui, I think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's we did Imelique, or the Ngerbunzelbad site in Imelique. That was one of the areas where, after we did those small test trenches, one of them we had on the very top, in the center of the crown of that shaped hill that's right by the road if you drive to Elui. And in that small test trench, we found the outline of an elongate pit that looked a lot like a burial pit, like a grave pit. And that's why we decided to do a larger excavation there, and to basically investigate what that crown had been used for in the past, because, well, a pit can be a lot of things, no? That, could have been a refuse pit or a planting pit, and that's why, we needed to have a closer look and, a bigger area. And it ended up that we.
So what did you find there?
We found several burials, and what's so significant about them is that they were very surprisingly well preserved, because usually human bone, or bone in general, on Babeldaub decomposes very quickly because the soils are very acidic. And those burials up in Imelique, you could still see the entire skeleton when compared with other areas in the world where you have different soil. They were very, very decomposed, but they were good enough preserved to get a real idea about how, in what position, how they were lowered into the grave pit, where they were facing, and it was actually well enough preserved to take some samples for DNA testing, and some samples for analysis for a physical anthropologist. So they basically look at the bones, or at teeth mainly, and then can say a lot about the diet of the people in the past, and the age. So that was really.
So how old were they?
The lucky thing is that we have fireplaces in the same context, one even inside of a grave pit with the skeletons, and so the charcoal in the fireplace can be dated, and so we have a very direct date for that burials up there in Imelique, which is between 650 and 720 AD, so a good 1,300 years old.
Wow.
1,300?
Yep.
Wow, that's really
So
interesting.
that means there were people in Imelique, 700 years before Christ, after Christ?
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
and I believe much earlier as well. That on the very top, that burial will not be the first thing that people did in that area. No?
So that means there were people residing the lower part of Imelique and then they move up.
Well, that is still something that is not completely understood. Where was the initial settlement, and how did people again also react to changes in climate, in changes in farming techniques from dry land farming to taro patches. So that is something, and that's not only our group of researchers that is looking into that. There's been prior archaeological work done on those aspects to understand like what the dynamics are now between the.
What about the food they ate at that time?
Years is a long time.
Any evidence of what food they ate, or just
So-
from the teeth or from?
Yeah, that is something that we are still looking into. When one of the big results we had, because we have soil scientists on our team who are real experts in identifying what soil was used for, how the soil was created, and so they identified that on the horizontal areas, on the terraces, there is human-made garden soils. So the people actually mixed in organic material and charcoal that binds nutrients, makes the soil more fertile, and then there's lots of outlines of planting pits. They're very, very faint, so you really have to know what you're looking for. But they were able to find. Yeah, that over extensive areas, those terraces were used for gardening, and then on the same site, gardening in the horizontal areas, and then burials up on top. And so we did take lots and lots of soil samples from those planting pits to look at microscopic remains of what plants were being grown. And yeah, unfortunately, we actually did not. There was no remnants of what plants those were that can be related to that. Also, they are just decomposed and no longer detectable under the microscope. And so we've taken it a little bit further using different methods. What we are currently looking at, and that's our colleague Monica Trump from the Otago University in New Zealand. She is looking at those micro remains of plants in dental calculus. So in the teeth, that is one thing where we're trying to find out what did people eat, and also what kind of water did people drink, because those also like microscopic algae that are in drinking water that can also leave those little remains in your dental calculus. So
from the other site around Palau that you mentioned, is there an indication of like there were similar resettlement in those other states in Palau, with Mau, Malgaok, Nganui, about the same time or before or after Imelique?
Yes. So one of the things that is very interesting, I think, is if you have a look at all the different earthworks, all the different terraces across Babeldaub, the shapes are very, very different, no? But with all those 40 trenches that our team excavated, the construction techniques are very much the same. So what people put down as a base layer, what they then applied, and then the garden soil on top. And that is something that we really found on all those sites, and that's why we chose those sites from Ngarard down to Imelique, and in different states, in different areas, to get a good idea across space. And it turned out that this build-up or this construction technique, but also those garden soils, that is something that we found all across. No?
Kind of similar.
Yeah.
One quick question. When you saw the bones inside the burial, I know when I attended one of your presentations at the museum, you mentioned that you guys were able to tell whether it's an adult or a child. But when it comes to the adult, did you see the height? Were they tall people or short people, pygmies or?
Yeah, so we have one skeleton where we have like the complete head to toe, and that person is not particularly tall. I would say I think in centimeters.
Yeah, that's okay.
The person is 1.62 m
1
height.
meter 62 centimeters. Okay.
Exactly. So that is a pretty normal sized a normal sized person.
5 feet.
Let's. I'm gonna.
We're just doing the conversion into
1 meter 62
1.62 m
centimeter in feet.
What do we
In
have?
feet is what is 1 meter 62 centimeters in feet? It is 5 feet and 3 inches. About 5 feet, 3.7
Yeah, I'm
inches.
5'7", so I guess, and then you're like 5'5".
5'5".
Yeah, so I think still
interesting.
kind of
As you know, from your reading, I'm sure from Dr. Kuwari and Dr. Kramer, as well as the Japanese studies, and our own legend and history. There are two migration to Palau. The original one is from southwest, from Angkor to Peleliu all the way, and that's the first. And the second one is from Ngarwangal, was overtaken by water northeast. So, but according to legend and according to the study of our language, we come from Angkor. So if this settlement were in like the middle, in Imelique to all the way to Ngarard, that means the migration, the first settlers or occupants of the island came from the southwest and from the islands. So that means, can you tell by the maybe how long, how many years it took the migration from Angkor and from Ngarwangal to come to congregate in the Babeldaub Island?
Of the Babeldaub.
No, that we can't tell. I mean,
Migration,
that's also something where we need a lot more
So you need to
research
study in Angkor
in general to be able to trace migration routes and did they just stay? Did they go through territory? So I can't.
Because Palauans, we live on the coast area because we escaped from wars because we had wars before, and also we search food, water. So we stay in the coast.
In the coastal area.
It's very rare that people stay in the hills.
Yeah.
That's
why I kind of, whether it's entirely different people.
Or they die off. Just got buried in the hills.
Those people, original people they die off, and then the new migration came from Angkor and from Kayang, or the same people.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, especially when you take into consideration that with the very rich oral history and the traditional knowledge here in Palau, there is so little mention about the terraces. No, there's and that is very interesting. Why something that is so monumental and so big would not feature at all in all those legends, because even many aspects of landscape, there's a story about it, how a rock ended up here, and then of all things, those giant monuments, there is hardly any information. And
if it wasn't for you and your team, we wouldn't know.
Yeah. So can you calculate how many people occupy that place in Imelique or the other places in Palau, in Palau? So we can kind of know how many thousands of people were in Palau about that time. Yeah.
So that is always a difficult question, those population estimates. But if you just take into the consideration the amount of earthworks and then the amount of soil, of building material to build these, there must have been a large population, a lot more than today, no? And also a politically organized population, because it's really, we're talking about millions of tons of material, no? With all those test trenches, there were only 4 of those 40, so 10% where we reached bedrock, where we reached the natural rock at the base, and all the others was all human applied material. So that is such a giant task, and that's only the construction. Then there's the maintenance. Then that's only part of the population who do that. Other people, they need to go farming, they need to go fishing, they need to raise their kids. All of that, no? So that was a very large population in Palau.
So was it you who came up with the name, the Green Pyramids of Palau?
No, I did not. That's one of those things where we did a press release through the university when we first found those burials, and there was a lot of interest, which is amazing, because I think it's so important also for people to know that Palau has these, no? Because so many tourists, they come here to dive, and then they spend a week, 10 days, have a wonderful time in the water, and don't even know that there's something so special and unique and impressive up in Babeldaub, no? So the Green Pyramids, it's a very catchy phrase, and in the beginning,
I loved it. It was wonderful.
In the beginning, I was a little bit like, I don't know. But one of the things that we did with that initial 3D documentation is that you can do digital cross sections. And actually, for example, that crown in Imelique, where we found the burials, it looks like it's kind of like a half dome, but it is actually this kind of pyramid shape with the flat top. So in the beginning, I was like, pyramids, I don't know. But it turns out, actually, many of them pyramids are not only like with the pointy tip like the Egyptian ones, but we do have those stepped pyramids, for example, in Central America and South America as well. So we can talk about green pyramids.
So it's interesting. Last night during the opening of the program, they got Tirangul by Sariang to open the program with the chant, nice. From Imelique, which kind of, I don't know whether it was intentional or just coincidental, but it's interesting.
Yeah. That was very. You're talking about the chant.
The chant,
yes.
Nice.
That was a very beautiful aspect of our project, because we did not remove the skeletons from the burial pits, because we did such detailed documentation, 3D documentation, that you can actually do analysis and look at details of the bones of the bodies on the computer. And so we left the bodies where they were buried, and that was a very beautiful thing that also I, as an archaeologist, have never done before. That 2 days before Christmas, there was a reburial ceremony, and there were lots of people who came out. Minister Metulu was there, and the old ladies, they were doing the chanting, and the dignitaries were there, and of course the team and the workers. And it was one of those moments where you really connect over cultural heritage. And they put pandanus mats over the bodies, betel nut, and then we refilled the trench. No, so it was very nice, because, like I said earlier, I think most Palauans don't really see themselves in like a continuous tradition with the people of the earthworks or who built the earthworks. But then you have such a ceremony where, it's still respects are being paid, and the same kind of...
Well, part of our culture, we believe in like the ancestors, spirits, connecting of souls to the past.
The other areas you covered, I think in Kaklau or Natpang, you're still doing work there. What are you doing?
So in Natpang, that was also that's the NGIRMANG site is very extensive. So we did, I want to say, 10 of those trenches there on all different kinds of construction elements, and then we did a larger trench again on the very top. And in the small test trench, we had found a ceramic vessel turned upside down, and it was broken into many pieces, but they were all there. So it was just basically compressed from the weight of the earth on top of it. And so that again was like one of those things where you think, okay, we need to take a closer look here and excavate a larger trench. That was also a very interesting excavation, because that is one of the examples where actually after, I want to say, 2 feet, there's already bedrock. So there was a stone alignment that crossed the trench. There were several pits. So, but the bedrock is really pretty close to the current surface, and that area points more towards like a settlement use, because we had some post holes. So like there was at some point a building or a shelter at least up there, so that can be for settlement or a ritual use of the area. In that case, we didn't find any burials, but it was definitely also an area that was intensely used.
Should we take the color, or
let's get
somebody's interested?
Color on the air.
Oi, may tutaw le ora oi radio. May tutaw le ora ang irmang ka mairin ng archaeologist. Ako rin siyang mga adol kay Terraces na bluray mali. Yang akam na research mesah malpotokol way gagil Dietary Raigelin sel odes. Madiregat Indonesia. Me there was a gazbul. The bull rahman nga ramol time. Bera bay gel le koring idanga wasing aygang madengeng gayid archaeologist. Ako ngay rule gera wasi kam kalam gera wasi IRENE ma again UDESUALL higis sabi lo ay wasi gang matsra ngaral raver tian bululaf balu binjal neighbor island ma generic ra mo singo ingarat time mer el blangi sa igat mengel was singo ingarat time identify ra DNA ra igat use was itigat amergel tang kila Arbelau gigan neighbor island komsulang.
That man is a regular caller to this program.
He's from Imelique.
Okay.
And he says he's done some studies around and found the same kind of terrace in Indonesia and Philippines. So his question is that did you find some similarity with those countries, and also since they have a burial place, can you use DNA to connect those people in the to trace to their roots, whether from these other islands or connect to us Palauans?
Yeah, so thank you very much for calling and for your interest.
Smart, good question.
The first question about terraces in other areas of the world. So yes, that is something that appears all over the world, really, where human beings have figured out, okay, it's very hard to do gardening on a slope. And so if we shape the slope or the hill into terraces, we can actually make gardening work. So yeah, there is a lot of comparisons when it comes to terraces, and yeah, what the caller mentioned in Indonesia, in Bali, the big rice terraces in the Philippines as well, on Madagascar. So also in Germany for wine. So yeah, terracing is definitely basically an optimization of land use. Yeah, so you're making the best of the land and using it the best, in the most efficient way. The second question about the DNA analysis. We did take samples for DNA testing of of 5 individuals from the Imelique site and of 1 individual from the Ngeklau site. The individuals up in Gadard, they're even older, so they're around 1,800 years old, so they were much less well preserved even. So they're we were only able to take one sample for DNA analysis that is being done at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Germany. And they are exceedingly good at what they do. They actually that group of researchers, they won a Nobel Prize last year because they were able to find Neanderthaler DNA just on the floor of caves where the Neanderthaler lived. So if there's DNA, they will find it, and it's taking a long time, those analysis, because it's very, very meticulous, very, very detailed work. And also there's obviously a lot of interest in that lab. There's a lot of people submitting samples. Also still after COVID, there's a lot of backlog. I get a lot of questions in general about the DNA because there's such potential, and I absolutely understand the fascination. And we have at this point 2 individuals that have enough mitochondrial DNA, that's the DNA that's passed down through the mother side. 2 individuals, and luckily 1 from Ngeklau and 1 from Imelique. And so that was identified that there is enough DNA to then do further testing, further sequencing. They're using a new kind of method where they're taking micro drill cores on the individual piece of bone or tooth to really get all the possible information there is.
Come to the conclusion. I'm
so
waiting.
they are on it. My conclusion is they are on it. And,
are we connected to them? I mean, that's...
that is not... we don't have that information yet, but that is ideally what they will be able to find out.
Can you get our hair so that you can go give it to them?
Yes. Okay, hair samples, everybody. Now, basically the questions are... We have those humans from all that time ago in the earthworks. Then there are burials from the rock islands, also very early burials, much better preserved. And then we have modern populations, no? And then also for tracing migration routes, no? So where is the biggest common denominator genetically with other islands? And so yes, there's a lot of potential, and we're awaiting the results. And
So you're talking 6 months or 1 year?
I'm not gonna give any age estimate.
No.
I'm sorry, but definitely the community, they'll be the first to know. That's in general how we do it. We share our results with the community, and then only in the academic world and academic journals, because I mean we're dealing with Palauan cultural heritage, so Palauan should be the first to know.
Well, we look forward to your next visit, just to.
We're gonna keep you here until you give us the information.
exciting.
I understand you announced last night that you're expanding to the Rock Islands.
We have actually already done, that's a separate project, but really everything is connected, no? But that is a project through the German Archaeological Institute, and the director in that case is not myself, that's Christian Hadlreiter. And what we did there was document archaeological sites that are right by the waterline, because those are very much in jeopardy with rising sea levels, more long term, but very acutely through increased intensity of cyclones, storm surges, and there's a lot of risks of lots of sites being destroyed. And so what's important is to do exactly this kind of detailed documentation. So if a site is destroyed, at least there's all the data about it, there's all the information about it. And that is another project that we did, where we basically did survey along the coastlines on a boat, also using a drone, also using a LiDAR drone, which basically sends a laser signal that can even map through vegetation, which is a extremely handy tool. So that really makes life a lot easier for archaeologists.
So how long do you think this work you're doing, you reach conclusion? At least you come to and saying, okay, these are your findings, your conclusion.
They
All
just
this
recently started.
But also, there will never be a final conclusion. I mean, that's the nature.
Exploration.
That's the nature of archaeology. We're human beings. We are creating our histories as we sit here, and then 200 years from now, 2,000 years from now, somebody will be excavating our soda can and come up with wild theories of what it was used for.
Germany owes Palau something.
I actually,
you came
yes,
here. We didn't invite you. You came here, took over, rule us with dictator. I mean, Palauans,
Yes.
if you kill someone, you'll die. And one of my uncles was shot at Emmaus by the
He's
Germans
also
because.
from Angar, and he's not happy about the monkeys that were
So
brought.
what happened is you dig the phosphate out, you didn't pay the people of Angar, and then you left 2 monkeys that now explode. It's over 1,000 now, and I mean a real menace. So I think I want that to be in your conscience, guilty conscience, so that you can tell your government and your people to continue to do this. And if you do this, then it's okay. We'll get payment.
No, that definitely. I mean, there is no turning a blind eye to the past and the exploitation in the islands here in Palau and in the Pacific in general. And that is one of the reasons why we are forging strong partnerships, why we are investing in cultural heritage management, and also training local staff in documentation techniques.
Yeah, you're also family now. My father lives in Germany. He's also German.
Thank you. But definitely, I mean, that is a part of our joint history, and make it a positive partnership and do something
and
constructive.
We have people from our village in Malgayok, they went to Germany to fix the roof of
exactly. So I think especially that was also what last night's opening ceremony was about, that cooperations really around culture, that really brings people together. And
Correct.
also from my perspective, excavating and making exciting findings with our local Palauan team, that bonds, that really forges bonds and friendships, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm actually very, very grateful to the Palauan people that they have the trust in us, and that we can do
my
research
father was
here.
about 10 years old, and he said they taught him to fix engines. And they forced him to write with his hands.
Yeah.
He's left-handed, and he write with this. And he said the Germans and he write longhand so I mean at 8 to 10 years old he learned to fix engines, So which is, and he said that they were very strict and hardworking, and that's his memory of the Germans. And I think Germany has proved even in Europe is still leading country in Europe because of, I think, basically hard work,
Germany, I can attest to that. They have a work ethic that is unmatched.
Yeah, and I think the school system, I just learned that the school system, like her, she went up to university to free of charge, But
I gotta say that is a very positive thing.
Free education up to university.
Exactly.
Every
so all the way I have
up to PhD.
Up to PhD. Yeah.
Wow.
Every German citizen has a chance.
Yeah.
Is entitled to free education up
Absolutely.
to university.
So it does not depend on your income
Wouldn't that
or
be
your
nice for
parents'
Palau?
income to whether you get a degree, an academic degree, a PhD. That is a very positive thing, I will say. But I want to definitely make a point, because you were saying hard work and work ethic. The team up in Babeldaub, the excavation workers who did all the hard lifting, that's hard work. That's hard work.
Yes.
And amazing. Also the enthusiasm and so.
That's,
I'm amazed at the work you do.
Yeah, we're coming to a close. So additional comments you want to make before we close the program?
Well, I have just one question for you. You are working very hard, but each time you come, have you had a chance to also enjoy Palau?
Play. You have a chance to play?
To play also, to have fun. On your days of work, you go to the Rock Islands or the waterfalls.
Yes, so I always say I need to come to Palau just for vacation, because in general, when I'm here, I want to make most use of the time, and especially now the last 3 weeks setting up the museum exhibit, that was intense. So,
yes.
But I'm not going to pretend that I'm all work, no play. So
Good.
Definitely, I love to dive. It's from my perspective, the best place in the world for diving, and just go for a snorkel. Even on the way back from the job, from the excavation, we would stop at KB Bridge and just do a snorkel. So yes, we definitely also enjoy very much.
Where do you stay now? I mean, what island are you resident of? In the Pacific? Do you stay?
Oh no, I'm based in Germany, so I live in Germany.
Which part?
I live all the way in the west in Bonn, the former capital. So yes.
Okay.
Beautiful Bonn. I think it was never damaged by war.
It was not significant enough for
Not
anybody.
like Berlin, yeah. Yes, I was just there in December and went to the Deutsche Kulturmuseum.
Oh yes, there you go.
So to see the work that our cousins went to do for the Abai, for the Bai, Palau Bai. It was really interesting.
And that's the biggest
I sent
museum
pictures
in
to
Germany
him.
now.
The one in Berlin, yes.
Yes, life
yes.
size. It's a
Yes.
life size one.
Wow. Oh,
Yes, it
okay.
was really good. I like the relationship that Germany has with Palau, and I especially appreciate the work you do, you
Thank
and your
you.
team.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
So,
Helping us to search and know more about our identity as Palauans. And that's good.
and she has a large land in Babeldaben also. So I'm sure, if you want to build a cottage or something for yourself here, we have plenty land that you can
Yes.
have.
Yeah, we welcome, if Germans want to come to Palau to invest or to live. In fact, I have a church member who was just taking care of one German couple. They just went back home because they were getting really, really old, but they lived with them.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
long
remember,
time.
yeah.
My Emery Wenti.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's nice.
Well, thank you very much. We've taken a lot of your time because I know you're leaving tomorrow, so you're busy to do things. But I'll give you a few minutes to say your last piece.
Yeah, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I want to thank the caller for very good questions, and yeah, I basically would like to take this opportunity also to thank the Palauan community in general for their support and for letting us do work here and enjoy beautiful Palau. And I hope we can continue not only our scientific work but also these strong partnerships and friendships that
Cultural
that we've
exchange.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Colin.
And then we don't say
Thank
goodbye in Palauan, we just say Mauriul until
I
later.
mean, see you later.
Mauriu.
Yes, Mauriu.
Sulang kumanom saul tatakal ma elang elak research la edel bunge ak mom sate ala IRENE mong mom programming aka mong tringal ase mos em guk muy gelul swem na swam mong elang em nadal sabel.
eo marang moula mayap au ngil madangali arngul belau isay yaul akmul mogon